And this time I want to talk about what I want to talk about, y'all. Hello, bookish baddies. I'm back. It's been a while, and it's been a real while since I've done a bookish long form video, but I am back. And this time I want to talk about what I want to talk about, y'all. This time I want to talk about the Flowers in the Attic series by V.C. Andrews. So I am a horror girly. I love scary movies. I love spooky books. I love a thriller. I love all of that. And Flowers in the Attic is a gothic thriller. It's very, very different, or gothic horror, excuse me. Very, very different from what you would think of when you think about a horror book. It's dark and twisty. Yeah, that's what we'll say. It's dark and twisty. So this is an older series. I think it came out in either the 70s or the 80s, I believe. And fun fact, did you know that partway through her career, V.C. Andrews actually passed away, and a ghostwriter has been writing under her name for years and years since then. So yeah, isn't that something? But they did a pretty good job because I have read several of her books and I can't really tell the difference. I can a little, but I always have to verify. So anyways, let's get into it. Let's go top to bottom, and we're going to just do a brief overview of the book and where it stood for me in the series. Let's go. So I bought all of these secondhand because I wanted the first edition feel of the copies. I didn't want the ones with the show cover on it because Lifetime has done a show on these, and I didn't want the one with the cover on it. So sorry if y'all can hear the fireworks. It's the 4th of July, and of course I'm recording this video on the 4th of July night, so y'all know what's going on outside, but hopefully you don't hear it. Anyways, the first one, Flowers in the Attic, is the only one I don't actually have the cover for, the jacket for. But anywho, has some good call outs here. This one, I mean, it's just iconic. It really is. I mean, the first line that opens this book really does it for me. It is so appropriate to color hope yellow, like that sun we seldom saw. It just, I don't know, it just gives, it just eats, it just sets the tone. And so if you've never read Flowers in the Attic, Flowers in the Attic is a story of a perfect family. So mom, dad, oldest son, oldest daughter, and then a set of twins, boy and girl. And the dad dies and they don't have anything. So the dad was the breadwinner, whatever. And so mom says, well, my family is rich. They disowned me long ago, but they said we can come back. So they go back, and when they get there, the mom's like, but you have to hide in the attic for a couple days because I have to tell my father about you so he can write me back into his inheritance. And a couple days turns into 3 years. And some really dark and twisty secrets come out during these 3 years. And some very heavy stuff is happening up in the attic. That's all I'll say about it. I don't want to, take it too far, but it gets dark. It gets twisty. What can I say? So this one, for me, 10 out of 10. There's some trigger warnings. Look them up. But 10 out of 10. This book was written beautifully, phenomenally. Okay, so the next one is Petals on the Wind. Here's the cover. Isn't it so 80s? And Petals on the Wind is what happens once they escape the attic. So once they escape the attic, they end up going to live with somebody who takes them in, and just all of the trials and tribulations that they face from trying to create a new life after being through such a traumatic experience. And I have to give you a little spoiler here because otherwise the rest of the books aren't going to make sense. In the first book, in Flowers in the Attic, the two eldest children start to have an incestuous affair. I know, crazy, right? And so in this book, they're fighting against that. No, we're not going to do that anymore. We slipped up. We're not going to let it happen anymore. But they also can't help themselves. Interesting, right? And so then lots of things happen, and finally the oldest daughter, she really has it out for her mom. Like, she's like, oh no, you will pay for your crimes. The other kids are kind of like, oh, she's still our mom, but she's like, oh no, 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 you did us both and you will pay. And she makes her mom pay. Petals on the Wind, it was a little long for me. Like, it didn't need to be as long as it was. I would give it like a 7 out of 10. So this is the third one, If There Be Thorns. Look, cover action. And this one, the two eldest children have now gotten married. Yep, the brother and sister are now husband and wife. And there are two children. They have two children together. And I'm not going to tell you how the children came about because that's a whole different cup of tea. But anyhow, this book is from those children's perspective. So a 14-year-old and I think an 8-year-old, Jory and Bart. And that makes it a little difficult to read because it's in like the lingo of a child. But the storyline is phenomenal in this. Like, the way it all ties in is really, really good. And I don't want to spoil that for you, so I'm not going to. But I would give this one a 7.5, maybe an 8 out of 10. And the last in the initial series is Seeds of Yesterday. Look, cover action. And so this one is like the final wrap up to these sibling stories. So this is where you find the siblings in old age, and they are residing in the original house. So it's bringing the whole story full circle. The original house from Flowers in the Attic, which is now owned by their youngest son, and all of the drama that comes with that. Now, this one wasn't my favorite, but I feel like the full circle moment that it gave was very necessary. So I'm going to give this one a 8 out of 10. And lastly, this is a prequel, and it is Garden of Shadows. And so one of the main characters in Flowers in the Attic in the original book is the children's grandmother. She plays a large role in it. She's a villain. She's awful. And so this book really gives you some context into her life. Now, I have to say, I'm not a fan of making the villain feel good. You know, like, let's warm your heart to the villain. I get it. Everybody has a story. But in my books, I like the villain to stay the villain. However, it was good, and I would give this a 9 out of 10. So it's actually my second favorite of the series. If you've read this series, what was your ranking of these books? And if not, have you read any V.C. Andrews? If not, it might be time to take a walk down memory lane. All right, until next time, guys. Bye.